I didn't uncover forbidden research. I uncovered research designed to detect the moment a human understands too much and intervene before that understanding finishes forming. Today's story is entitled The Study That Tracks When People Understand Too Much, and it was posted to the r/Library of Shadows subreddit by Redacted Appendix. Hello everybody, I'm CC and welcome back to the Crucible of Character, where today we have another great story for you that I'm excited for you to hear. If you enjoyed today's story, please make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss further stories, further learning, further progression down the rabbit hole that is psychological horror. And as always, keep an eye out for the lesson so that we can discuss it together at the end. Without further ado, the story. I didn't break into anything. That's important because the story sounds cleaner if you assume I did something illegal. Curiosity punished feels deserved. Trespassing implies consequence, but I followed every rule that was presented to me, which is why it took so long to realize the rules themselves were the trap. I was a graduate research assistant in a neuroscience lab attached to a private university. Not prestigious, not secretive, just well-funded. Most of our work involved post-processing EEG data for pattern irregularities. Long hours, low glory, perfect conditions for overlooking details that don't announce themselves. The dataset came from an internal archive. No warnings, no locks, no red tape. Just a directory that had been quietly growing for over a decade, updated automatically. Rarely accessed, the label was generic. Longitudinal Variance Study. I opened it because I needed sample noise to test a filtering algorithm. The recordings weren't unusual at first. Brainwave data from hundreds of subjects over years, compressed and standardized. What caught my attention was the annotation style. Not medical, not academic, observational even. Notes like subject shows awareness spike at 2:14 and recognition event suppressed naturally. There were references to interviews, but no transcripts attached. Follow-ups that ended abruptly. Then, I noticed the structure. The data wasn't grouped by patient, it was grouped by outcome. Clusters formed not around diagnosis, but around moments. Specific realizations, conceptual thresholds, points where subjects seemed to understand something they weren't meant to. I told myself it was experimental, shorthand, a quirk of whoever organized the archive. Then, I found the appendix. A single PDF buried 3 folders deep, mislabeled as corrupted. It opened cleanly. It wasn't a research paper. It was a procedural document. It described a phenomenon they called cognitive breach. The moment a human mind independently identifies a structural inconsistency in perceived reality. Not delusion, not psychosis, pattern recognition taken one step too far. According to the document, breaches were rare but increasing. The paper wasn't about preventing them. It was about containment. Some subjects self-corrected. Their awareness spiked, then decayed. Others required intervention, memory disruption, redirection, environmental noise. A small percentage failed to stabilize. Those files ended early. I stopped reading for the first time when I recognized a case description. Not a subject I knew. An event. A blackout I remembered from childhood. A moment where I had stared at the ceiling fan too long, and suddenly felt like the room wasn't arranged correctly, as if the angles mattered more than objects. I had forgotten all about it, but the data set hadn't. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the archive directory was gone. Not deleted, not restricted, gone. I assumed I had lost access until I checked my local machine. The files were still there, and now they were updating. New annotations appeared alongside the old ones, time-stamped in real time. EEG traces spiked and dipped in ways that mirrored my own stress responses. Notes adjusted phrasing after I reread them, clarifying points I had stumbled over. One line appeared beneath my childhood incident. Delayed breach. Secondary exposure detected. I unplugged my computer and left the lab. That evening, I received an email from my advisor, casually asking if I'd accessed the longitudinal archive. No accusation, just a check-in, a reminder about research boundaries. I didn't reply. The next morning, the email was gone from my inbox. So was my sent draft. The files on my computer remained. I tried to destroy them. Hard drive wipe, reformat, physical damage, nothing worked. The data persisted, migrating, reappearing on replacement drives, cloud backups I didn't remember enabling. Always annotated, always current. Eventually, the notes shifted tone. Less descriptive, more evaluative. Subject exhibiting recursive analysis. Awareness exceeding safe research limits. Recommend passive stabilization. That was when my thoughts began to feel padded. Not erased, softened. Insights slid away before they could sharpen. Questions lost urgency. I felt calm in situations that should have terrified me. The last note appeared 3 weeks ago. Research access revoked. Subject retained for longitudinal observation. I can still function. I can still think. But every time I approach the edge of remembering what I learned, really, relearned, I feel a gentle pressure, like hands guiding my attention elsewhere. The forbidden part wasn't the research. It was finishing it. The end. I really like that story. Now to start off, let's get into the psychology. So, we have a protagonist. They discover they're not supposed to know this information. They discover this information that knows more about them than they do. It knows when people are kind of breaking the simulation and they're kind of noticing it. What would you feel if you were in that situation? Let me know down below. Well, first off, you would probably feel, at least from my perspective, kind of detached from everything. I feel like our brain has this really good and natural way of shielding us and blocking us and rewriting things and closing doors and preventing us from doing things like this very intentionally. Because when something too big and bad for our psyche comes and it is going to just absolutely destroy our psyche, a lot of the time our brain just doesn't let it happen. If it can, if it has enough time, it just won't. It will shatter our personality into different parts so that we can have a part that's strong and is able to resist, so that the softer parts don't have to die, but they are also unaffected. It will also do many other things. And I think that kind of goes into today's lesson, which for me was, we have trauma in our lives, we have these things that come up, and a lot of times our brains will build walls around them. And if it is not so serious as to fragment your personality into a multiple personality disorder or dissociative personality disorder, then we need to learn to break down the walls. Yes, at the time where we equipped to handle those situations, no. That's okay. But at some point in time, you have to learn to take down the walls, or else you're just going to keep living with this pressure. You're just going to keep living with this, I don't know why this person or this place or this feeling gives me anxiety, but it does, and I can't go near it. Something inside me is telling that. And of course, if I go into a back alley and I get mugged and I get PTSD from it, and I break those walls down, does that mean I'm just going to, oh yeah, I can go down every back alley and I'll be okay? No. But what I'm saying is, your brain packaged it all up and put it away. And at some point you need to learn to take it off the shelf, accept it, learn from it, and move on. So that these random, or at least seemingly random parts of your life doesn't give you anxiety. So that these people and these places and these things that have hurt you don't just keep taking from you this energy, this time, this effort. You need to learn to take your life back. That's the lesson I got from today's story. Please let me know down below what you thought about today's story, what you thought about the video, and as always, what you thought about the lesson. Once again, I'm Cece with the Crucible of Character. If you enjoyed today's story and you're excited for tomorrow, please make sure to subscribe and like the video. And with that, I love you all. I'll see you all later. Goodbye.